Before we begin, if you're enjoying these stories from the highway, please subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It helps more than you know. And I'm curious, where are you watching from tonight? Drop your location in the comments. Now, let's talk about Interstate 80, Wyoming, and the shift that doesn't officially exist. My name is David Gaboury, and before transferring to the Wyoming Highway Patrol in the spring of 1989, I worked as a Chicago police officer. Everyone asked me why I decided to leave a police force in a big city to patrol hundreds of miles of empty highways in one of America's least populated states. The answer was quite simple. I was exhausted. I was fed up with the noise, violence, and endless human drama that filled every shift in Chicago. I wanted deep silence. I wanted emptiness. I wanted to drive for hours and just enjoy the scenery and the sky, seeing nothing else. I got what I wanted, and I got something else I never asked for. The transfer process was smooth. Wyoming Highway Patrol needed bodies, and I had solid experience and good references. By April, I was living in a small apartment in Rawlins and covering the graveyard shift on I-80. The stretch between Rawlins and Rock Springs. About 80 miles of high desert, wind-blasted emptiness, and more stars than I'd ever seen in my life. The first few weeks were exactly what I'd hoped for. Peaceful. The occasional speeder, the rare trucker with equipment violations, but mostly just driving, watching, thinking. The isolation was medicine for my burned-out soul. My sergeant, a weathered guy named Tom Holloway, seemed amused by my enthusiasm. "Just wait until winter," he'd say. "Then you'll understand why we can't keep people on this route." But I didn't mind the idea of winter. I didn't mind anything about Wyoming. Until the night of May 17th, when I learned about the third shift. I'd started my patrol at 11 p.m., the usual routine. Fill the thermos with coffee. Check the radar gun, log the mileage. The night was clear and cold, temperature hovering around 40 degrees. I-80 stretched out before me like a black ribbon, the headlights of the occasional truck or car the only breaks in the darkness. By 2 a.m., I'd made 2 stops. A speeder doing 90 gave him a warning. A trucker with a busted tail light gave him a fix-it ticket. Standard stuff. I pulled into the rest area at Wamsutter to fill out my reports and pour another cup of coffee. That's when I first heard it on the CB radio. I kept a CB in my patrol car, Channel 19, the main trucker frequency. It was useful for getting traffic info, weather warnings, and the occasional heads-up about road hazards. Most troopers monitored it. That night, the chatter was normal until about 3:15 a.m. "Breaker, breaker. Any westbound traffic past Rock Springs? You got your ears on?" The voice was urgent, stressed, not the usual casual trucker drawl. "This is Smokey J. westbound at mile marker 130. Go ahead, driver." "Smokey, this is Dakota running with a reefer load. What's your 20? "Coming up on Wamsutter. Why?" A pause, then, "What time you got?" 3:17 a.m. "What's going on?" Another pause, longer. "Smokey, you need to find a place to park, right now, before 3:33. "What? Why?" "Just trust me. Get off the highway, park it, wait it out." I sat up straighter in my seat, listening. This was strange. I grabbed my own CB mic. "This is Wyoming Highway Patrol. Is there a road hazard I should know about?" Dead silence on the channel. Then Smokey's voice came back, quieter. "Officer, where you at right now?" "Wamsutter Rest Area." "Good, stay there. Don't get back on I-80 until after 4:45. You hear me? Do not get back on the highway." "Sir, I need you to explain what's happening." "Can't explain what you wouldn't believe, officer. Just, if you've got any sense, you'll trust an old hand. Stay put for the next hour and a half. Then the channel went quiet. Completely quiet. Usually, there was some chatter, even at 3 a.m., but now there was nothing, just static. I checked my watch, 3:19 a.m. I should have listened. I should have stayed at that rest area. But I was a cop, and cops don't hide from unexplained CB warnings. I finished my coffee, started my engine, and pulled back onto I-80 heading west. The highway was empty. Not unusual for this time of night, but the emptiness felt different somehow. More complete. I passed mile marker 140, then 145. The road stretched ahead, lit by my headlights and nothing else. No lights from distant towns. No lights from anything. Wait. I looked to my right toward the south. Rock Springs should be visible from here, maybe 20 miles away. On a clear night like this, you could always see the glow of the city lights on the horizon. There was nothing. Just darkness. I grabbed my radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 7. Can you confirm the status of Rock Springs?" Static. "Dispatch. Do you copy?" More static. Then a voice, but not dispatch. It was breaking up, distorted. "Out. Get out. It's starting." I checked my watch. 3:32 a.m. And then everything changed. It wasn't gradual. It was instant, like someone flipping a switch. 1 second I was driving on I-80 in Wyoming on a normal May night. The next second I was driving through something else. The highway was the same. The pavement, the mile markers, the white and yellow lines. But everything else was gone. The fences that ran along the highway, gone. The occasional ranch buildings in the distance, gone. The power lines that paralleled the interstate, gone. And the sky. Jesus, the sky was wrong. It was still dark, still night, but the stars were different. Too many, too bright, in patterns I didn't recognize. And there was a quality to the darkness that made my skin crawl. It wasn't the absence of light. It was the presence of something else. I slowed down, my hands gripping the wheel. My radio was dead, just a hiss of static. My police radio, my CB, everything. I was completely alone on a highway that led through absolute nothing. Then I saw the headlights behind me. I checked my rearview mirror. A vehicle was approaching fast, closing the distance. I couldn't make out the details, but something about it looked wrong. The headlights were too far apart, or maybe too close together. The height was off. It moved in a way that wasn't quite right. As it got closer, I realized it wasn't slowing down. It was coming right at me, maybe doing 100 miles an hour. I sped up. Whatever it was, I didn't want it catching me. My speedometer climbed. 70, 80, 90. The thing behind me matched my speed exactly, maintaining the same distance. I grabbed my CB mic out of pure instinct. "Anyone, if you can hear me, I need help. I-80 westbound, something's wrong, something's following me." A voice crackled through, clear as day despite all the static. "Officer, this is Smokey J. Listen to me very carefully. Do not stop. Do not let it catch you. Keep your speed steady and watch for the next rest area." What the hell is this? What's happening? You're in the empty. The third shift. It happens every night from 3:33 to 4:44. You've got static burst through, minutes to find shelter or get back out. Get back out how? Rest areas. They're still there in the empty. Get to one, park, wait it out. The shift ends at 4:44 exactly. The world comes back. But if you're still on the highway when it happens, you might not make it back. The thing behind me was getting closer. I could see it more clearly now in my rearview mirror, and I wished I couldn't. It looked like a semi-truck, but the proportions were all wrong. The cab was too tall, the trailer too long, and it was moving in a way that trucks don't move. swaying and undulating like it was breathing. How far to the next rest area? Mile marker 165. You're at 152 now, 13 miles. You can make it. I floored it. The patrol car's engine roared, and the speedometer climbed past 100. The thing behind me accelerated too, keeping pace. Mile marker 155. The thing was maybe 50 yards back now, close enough that I could see it wasn't a truck at all. It was something shaped like a truck, but the details were wrong. The windows were too dark, or maybe there were no windows at all. The exhaust stacks moved wrong, bending in ways metal shouldn't bend. Mile marker 160. My engine was screaming, the whole car vibrating. I'd never pushed a patrol car this hard. Almost there, officer. When you see the rest area, don't slow down until you're off the exit ramp. Get into a parking spot and kill your engine immediately. What is that thing? Something that lives in the empty, something that uses the highway. Don't think about it too hard. Just drive. Mile marker 163. I could see the rest area sign ahead, that familiar green and white marker that had never looked so beautiful. Mile marker 164. The thing behind me was close enough now that I could see it in detail, and the detail made my mind rebel. It had wheels, but they weren't spinning. They were rotating through each other, occupying the same space. The grille had something that might have been a face, or might have been the suggestion of a face, or might have been my brain trying to make sense of something it couldn't understand. Mile marker 165. The rest area exit. I hit it at 90, the car fishtailing as I took the curve too fast. Behind me, the thing followed, but it was slower on the turn, the wrongness of its shape making it awkward. I saw the parking lot empty and waiting. I picked a spot at random and slammed on the brakes, the car skidding into the space. I killed the engine, my hands shaking so badly I could barely turn the key. The thing that looked like a truck pulled up to the rest area entrance and stopped. Just stopped, idling there with its non-spinning wheels and its breathing frame. Waiting. I sat in my dark patrol car, trying to control my breathing, and checked my watch, 3:47 a.m. 57 minutes left. The CB crackled. You made it. Good. Now listen. Don't get out of your car. Don't turn on your lights. Don't make any noise. They can't get you in the rest areas, but they can wait. Just sit tight until 4:44. How many are there? In the empty, hard to say. Some of us have seen dozens. Others just one or two. They're not all the same. Some look like trucks, some look like cars, some look like other things. Jesus Christ. He doesn't have much pull in the empty, officer. Trust me on that. I sat there in the darkness, watching the thing wait at the entrance. Minutes crawled by. My watch seemed to be moving in slow motion. 3:52, 3:58, 4:03. Smokey, you there? I'm here, still eastbound, parked at the Rollins rest area, waiting it out like I do every night. Every night? This happens every night? Every night, 3:33 to 4:44. 71 minutes when the highway goes empty. Most drivers know about it. We plan our routes around it. If you can't avoid I-80 during those times, you find a rest area and park. The ones who don't know. He trailed off. What happens to them? Some make it through. Most don't. The empty takes them. They become part of it. You'll see them sometimes driving vehicles that aren't quite right, moving in ways that don't make sense. They're not alive anymore, but they're not exactly gone either. 4:15 a.m. The thing at the entrance hadn't moved. I could see other vehicles now, parked in the rest area like mine. A couple of semi-trucks, an old station wagon, a van. All dark, all silent. Other people waiting it out. How long has this been happening? As long as I've been driving this route, and I started in 1971. Old-timers say it goes back further. Some think it started when they built the interstate, like cutting the highway through the desert opened something up. Others think it was always here, and the highway just made it easier to access. Has anyone tried to figure out what it is? Scientists? Government? Smokey laughed, bitter. Who'd believe us? A bunch of truckers and cops talking about a magic hour when reality breaks down. We sound crazy. And the ones who do investigate, well, let's just say official vehicles don't get special treatment in the empty air. 4:28 a.m. The thing at the entrance began to move, backing up slowly. I watched as it retreated onto the highway, then turned and drove away westbound, its non-wheels rotating impossibly, its body swaying. It's leaving. They usually do around this time, 16 minutes left. When 4:44 hits, everything comes back. The lights, the buildings, the world. And you can get back on the highway safe until tomorrow night. I thought about that, tomorrow night, and the night after. Every night, forever, this happened. And I was assigned to graveyard shift on this stretch of highway. Smokey, what do I do? I can't just hide in rest areas every night. You learn the rhythms. You learn where you can be and where you can't. You learn to read the signs, and you decide if this job is worth it. 4:38 a.m. 6 minutes. Some people choose to stay in the empty, Smokey said quietly. Not everyone wants to come back. The empty has a kind of peace to it, if you can get past the fear. No people, no problems, just the highway going on forever. That's insane. Maybe, but I've met a few over the years, drivers who gave up trying to get out. They're still out there, still driving, forever caught in the third shift. 4:44 a.m. The change was instant, just like before. 1 second I was sitting in a rest area in an empty void. The next, I was in a normal rest area in Wyoming. The lights were on in the building. I could see Rock Springs in the distance, its lights a warm glow on the horizon. Power lines ran along the highway. A truck was pulling in off the interstate, the driver looking tired but normal, completely human. I got out of my car on shaking legs and walked to the restroom building. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed. Everything was normal, mundane, real. I splashed cold water on my face and looked at myself in the mirror. Same face, same uniform, same badge, but I'd seen something I couldn't unsee. I'd been somewhere I couldn't explain. When I walked back to my car, I saw the semi that had pulled in. The driver was an older man with a gray beard, leaning against his rig and smoking a cigarette. He nodded at me. "First time in the empty, officer?" I stared at him. "How did you know? You've got the look." "Everyone does after their first time. Don't worry, it gets easier. You learn to live with it." He took a drag on his cigarette. "Name's Earl, but everyone calls me Smokey. We talked on the CB." I shook his hand, still processing. "David Gaborit. Welcome to the third shift, David. You're one of us now." I drove back to Rollins as the sun came up, my shift officially over. I filed my report, leaving out everything that had happened between 3:33 and 4:44. What would I even say? I took a shower and tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw that thing that wasn't quite a truck, its wheels rotating through each other, its frame breathing. I had a choice to make. I could request a schedule change, get off graveyard shift, never work 3:33 to 4:44 again. I could transfer to a different route, maybe even a different state. I could quit the highway patrol entirely. Or I could learn to live with the empty, learn its rules, learn how to survive it, learn what Smokey and the others had learned over the years. That night, before my next shift, I went to a truck stop outside Rollins. I found Smokey having coffee at the counter. He smiled when he saw me. Figured you'd show up. Got questions? About 1,000. Then sit down. We've got time before the third shift starts. Let me tell you everything I know about the empty. And that's what he did. For the next 2 hours, Smokey told me the rules, the patterns, the survival strategies. He told me about the things that lived in the empty, about the people who'd been lost to it, about the strange geometry of a highway that led nowhere and everywhere at once. By the time I started my shift at 11 p.m., I knew what I was facing. I knew where the rest areas were, knew the safe spots, knew the signs that something was wrong even before 3:33 hit. And I knew I wasn't going to transfer. I wasn't going to run. I was going to learn to master the third shift. Or it was going to kill me trying. The empty was waiting. It was always waiting. And at 3:33 a.m., I'd meet it again. Smokey's lessons were the difference between survival and becoming another ghost on the empty highway. Over the next week, before each shift, he'd meet me at the truck stop and add to my education. He had a small notebook filled with observations, sketches, and rules written in careful handwriting. He let me copy it all. The most important rule was simple. Between 3:33 and 4:44 a.m., do not be on Interstate 80 in Wyoming unless you know what you're doing. If you must be on the highway, know where every rest area is, know where the safe spots are, and most importantly, know how to recognize what doesn't belong. The things in the empty, Smokey explained, they're not trying to kill you exactly. They're just using the highway, same as us, but we're not meant to be in the same space as them. When we overlap, bad things happen. What kind of bad things? He showed me a photograph, faded and creased. A semi-truck, but wrong. The cab was stretched vertically like it had been pulled taffy. The trailer bent in a curve that shouldn't be possible. And painted on the side, barely visible, was Henderson Family Trucking. Jimmy Henderson. Good driver, been running I-80 for 20 years. One night in '83, he didn't make it to a rest area in time. We found his rig the next morning, looking like this. Jimmy was inside, still gripping the wheel. Still alive, technically. But not here. Not all the way here. They took him to a hospital, but he couldn't speak, couldn't move, just stared at nothing. Died 3 days later. I studied the photo, feeling sick. This happened? They ruled it a single-vehicle accident, said he must have rolled the truck somehow even though the physics made no sense. They didn't want to acknowledge what really happened. Smokey took the photo back. That's why we have the network. We look out for each other. We share information. We survive together. The network, I learned, was an informal organization of truckers, highway patrol officers, and a few others who worked graveyard shifts on I-80. There was no official structure, no meetings, no membership cards, just people who knew about the empty and helped each other navigate it. The main communication hub was CB channel 19 to 33. During normal hours, it was just static. But between 3:33 and 4:44 a.m., it became active. Voices from the empty, people calling out their positions, warning each other about the things they'd seen. You can talk to people in the empty even if you're not in it, Smokey explained. If you're parked safe at a rest area, your CB will still pick up the channel. You can hear the poor bastards who are stuck out there trying to make it to safety. Sometimes you can help them. Sometimes you can't. My second night back on patrol, I experienced this firsthand. I'd learned my lesson and made sure to be parked at the Wamsutter rest area well before 3:33. At exactly that time, I watched the world go empty from the safety of my parking spot. The lights in the rest area building stayed on, but they looked dimmer somehow. The other vehicles in the lot, a few trucks, a camper van, all sat silent and dark. And on CB channel 19 to 33, the voices started. "This is Dakota. Eastbound at 156 looking for a safe spot. Anyone got a 20? Westbound holler at 142. I got something behind me. It's gaining. Channel 19 to 33. This is Moonlight. I'm at Rock Springs Rest Area. You got traffic trying to make it here. Come on back." I grabbed my CB mic. "This is Wyoming Highway Patrol, Unit 7, parked at Wamsutter. Any units needing assistance, state your location." Silence for a moment. Then a voice I didn't recognize. "Officer, this is Rabbit, westbound at 148. I got a family in trouble. Passenger car, looks like tourists. They don't know about the empty. They're pulled over on the shoulder with hazards on." "Can you see them?" "I'm about a quarter-mile back. There's something circling them, one of the things. It's pretending to be a highway patrol car." My blood ran cold. Pretending? Yeah. Wrong shape, wrong lights, but it's got the basic idea. I think it's trying to get them to open their doors. Trust authority, you know? I thought fast. "Rabbit, can you get between them and the thing?" "I can try, but I don't know if my rig's going to hold together. I'm running on fumes here, been in the empty for 20 minutes. Just get their attention. Use your horn, your lights, whatever. Make them aware they need to move." "Copy that. Going in now." I listened to the radio, helpless. I could hear Rabbit's truck horn blaring in the background, hear him shouting into his CB. "Come on, folks, get moving. That's not a real cop. Get back on the highway and drive." A new voice, panicked and young. "What? Who is this? What's happening?" "Sir, this is Wyoming Highway Patrol," I cut in. "There's been an incident on the highway. You need to proceed to the next rest area immediately. Do not stop for any vehicles. Do not exit your car. Just drive. But the police car is not real. Trust me, sir. Just drive. Mile marker 165, there's a rest area. Get there as fast as you can." I heard the car's engine revving, heard tires squealing. Rabbit came back on. "They're moving, good, but the thing is following them, and I don't think I can—" Static, then nothing. "Rabbit, Rabbit, do you copy?" No response. 10 minutes later, a passenger car pulled into the Wamsutter rest area. A young couple, maybe mid-20s, and 2 small children in the back seat. They parked 3 spots down from me, and I could see them through my windshield, all of them crying. I got out of my car and walked over. The man rolled down his window, his face pale. "Officer, what the hell is going on? The truck driver saved us, but then his truck just came apart, like it was made of paper. And there was something following us, something that looked like a police car but wasn't, and, sir, I need you to calm down. You're safe now. Stay in your vehicle, keep your doors locked, and wait until 4:44 a.m. At that time, everything will return to normal. You can continue your journey." Return to normal? What does that mean? I didn't know how to explain the empty to civilians. I just gave them my best, reassuring cop voice. "Trust me. 4:44 a.m. Everything will make sense then." I walked back to my car and tried Rabbit on the CB again. Nothing. At 4:44, when the world came back, I drove west looking for any sign of him. At mile marker 151, I found it. A semi-truck, torn in half. The cab was there, but the trailer was just gone, like it had been erased. Inside the cab, still belted into his seat, was Rabbit, or what was left of him. He'd been partially erased, too. One arm, half his torso, just missing. Not bloody, not torn, just absent. I called it in, sat with the wreckage until the day shift arrived. I gave them a statement that made no sense about finding a trucking accident that didn't match any known collision pattern. They wrote it up as another unexplained incident on I-80. That night, at the truck stop, I found Smokey and told him what happened. He nodded slowly. sadly. Rabbit was a good man, been running this route for 15 years. He knew the risks. He poured coffee from his thermos. He died doing what we do, protecting people from something they don't understand. Is it always like this? People dying? Not always. Sometimes we go weeks without losing anyone. But the empty takes its toll. We're playing in a space we don't belong in. He looked at me seriously. You can still walk away, David. Request a transfer, work day shift. No one would blame you. I thought about the young family in their car, crying and confused. I thought about Rabbit, sacrificing himself to save strangers. I thought about all the people who drove I-80 not knowing what lurked in the empty hours. No, I said. I'm staying, but I need to know everything. Every rule, every trick, every piece of knowledge you have. I'm not dying because I didn't know something. Smokey smiled. Then welcome to the real network. There's a gathering coming up. People like us from all along I-80. We meet every couple months, share information, remember the ones we've lost. You should come. The gathering was held at an abandoned truck stop 30 miles east of Rawlins. I arrived around midnight on a Saturday, my night off. There were maybe 20 people there. Truckers, mostly, but also a couple of highway patrol officers from Nebraska and Utah, a state maintenance worker, even a geologist who'd been studying I-80's construction. They welcomed me without ceremony. In this group, if you knew about the empty, you were family. A woman named Janela, a highway patrol officer from Nebraska, gave me a rundown of the expanded territory. It's not just Wyoming. The empty touches I-80 all the way from Nebraska through Utah. Different intensities in different places, but it's all connected. We think the highway itself is the key, something about the way it cuts through the landscape. The geologist, a nervous man named Dr. Darren Webb, had theories. Interstate 80 follows the path of the Transcontinental Railroad, which followed old wagon trails, which followed Native American routes. There's something about this corridor that humans have always used. Both sides? I asked. Think about it. We enter the empty during the third shift. But maybe from their perspective, they're entering our reality. Maybe the things we see are just trying to use the highway, same as us, and they're as confused by us as we are by them. An old trucker named Bill spoke up. Don't anthropomorphize them, Doc. I've seen what they do. They're not confused. They're predators. They know exactly what they're doing. Have you ever tried to communicate with them? I asked. Figure out what they want? The room went quiet. Finally, Smokey spoke. There was a guy, back in '79, state trooper out of Utah, name of Mark Patterson. He got obsessed with the empty, wanted to understand it. Started staying in the empty longer than he had to, taking risks, trying to interact with the things. He paused. One night, he radioed in that he'd made contact, said he was having a conversation with one of them. Said it was beautiful. That was the last transmission we got. His patrol car was found at mile marker 175, doors open, engine running. Mark was gone. And his car, it had changed. The interior was wrong, like it was halfway between our car and one of theirs. What happened to the car? State police impounded it. Tried to investigate, but they couldn't explain what they were seeing. Eventually, they crushed it. Didn't want people asking questions. Smokey looked at me. Don't try to understand the empty too deeply, David. Don't try to make friends with it, respect it, learn its patterns, but don't think you can negotiate with it. I listened to stories that night that made my first encounter seem tame. A trucker who'd seen an entire rest area full of vehicles from the 1950s, all perfectly preserved, all occupied by still waiting drivers. A highway patrol officer who'd clocked a vehicle doing 300 miles per hour in the empty, Impossible by any physics we knew. A maintenance worker who'd found a section of highway that looped back on itself, creating an impossible circle. They shared survival strategies. The safe rest areas. The mile markers where the empty was weakest. The signs that something was coming. Sudden temperature drops, radio interference, the stars shifting to wrong positions. And they shared the losses, names and dates, people who'd been taken by the empty. Rabbit was added to the list that night, his name written in a battered notebook that went back to 1971. As the gathering broke up around 4 a.m., Yanale pulled me aside. One more thing you should know. There are people who go into the empty voluntarily, every night. They're looking for something. Looking for what? Lost loved ones, mostly, family members who disappeared on the highway years ago. The empty doesn't follow normal time. It's possible someone who vanished in 1975 is still out there, still trapped in that same shift. So people go searching. Some come back, some don't. Have they ever found anyone? Once, maybe. Woman named Diane spent 2 years going into the empty every night, looking for her husband who'd disappeared in 1982. One night, she radioed that she'd found him, that he was alive, that she was bringing him home. We never saw either of them again. I drove home as the sun came up, my head full of information and my heart heavy with the weight of it. This was my life now, every night, 3:33 to 4:44, dancing with something that defied explanation. Over the next few weeks, I developed a routine. I mapped every rest area, every pull-off, every safe spot on my patrol route. I memorized the mile markers where the empty was most active. I learned to read the signs, to know when something was wrong before 3:33 even hit, and I started to help others. When I saw vehicles on the highway approaching the third shift, I'd pull them over and warn them. Most thought I was crazy. Some listened. The ones who listened survived. On Channel 19 to 33, I became a regular voice, calling out positions and hazards, helping stranded drivers find rest areas, warning people away from the things that pretended to be normal vehicles. But with each night in the empty, I noticed something changing. It was subtle at first. The third shift started feeling less alien. The wrongness became familiar. I could drive through the empty for longer periods without the rising panic I'd felt at first. And that scared me more than anything, because I remembered what Smokey had said about people who chose to stay, about the empty having its own kind of peace. One night, about 6 weeks after my first encounter, I was parked at Wamsutter during the shift when I saw something that changed everything. A vehicle approached the rest area. It looked like a patrol car at first, same model as mine, but as it got closer I saw the differences. The lights were wrong, the shape slightly off, the movement too smooth. It parked in the spot next to mine. The door opened. A man got out. He was wearing a Wyoming Highway Patrol uniform, or something that looked like one. The proportions were almost right. His face was almost human. He looked at me through my window and smiled. Almost. Then he spoke, and his voice came through my CB radio instead of through the air. "You're adapting well, Officer Gaborit. Soon you won't need to hide in the rest areas. Soon you'll be able to drive the empty freely, like us, like I do." I recognized him from the photograph Smokey had shown me weeks ago. Mark Patterson. The trooper from 1979. The one who'd tried to communicate. He was still here. Still in the empty. Changed, but still here. "What happened to you?" I asked into my CB mic. "I learned the truth," Patterson said, his smile widening in a way human faces don't quite manage. "The empty isn't a curse, it's an evolution. Why limit yourself to 71 minutes? Why hide in rest areas? The highway goes on forever here, forever and nowhere. It's beautiful, David, you'll see." I don't want to see. I want to stay human. Patterson's not-quite face showed something like pity. You're already changing. Every night you spend in the empty, you're becoming more like us. More like me. Eventually, you won't want to go back. The real world will seem small and loud and painful. You'll choose the empty. They always do. He got back in his patrol car and drove away, merging onto the empty highway with impossible smoothness. I sat there until 4:44, shaking. When I got back to Rollins and showered, I looked at myself in the mirror for a long time, looking for changes, looking for signs that Patterson was right. I looked the same, but I felt different, and that terrified me. The empty was calling, and I was starting to answer. After my encounter with Mark Patterson, I became obsessed with understanding the empty, not because I wanted to join it like he had, but because I needed to know what I was fighting against, what I was becoming. I started keeping detailed logs. Every night, I documented everything I saw in the empty. The vehicles that weren't quite vehicles, the way the highway seemed to breathe, the patterns and the wrongness. I filled 3 notebooks in 2 months. Smokey noticed the change in me. You're thinking too hard about it, David. That's how it gets you. Patterson thought he could understand it. Look where that got him. I'm not trying to join it. I'm trying to predict it. Every phenomenon has patterns, even this one. The empty isn't a phenomenon, it's a place. And places don't follow rules we can understand. But I didn't listen. I couldn't. Because every night I spent in the empty, I felt myself changing in ways I couldn't quite articulate. My reaction time was faster. My night vision was sharper. I could sense when something was wrong seconds before it manifested. I was adapting, and that terrified me. 3 months into my patrol of the 3rd shift, I encountered something that broke on careful documentation. It was a Tuesday night, unremarkable except for unusually clear skies. I'd parked at the Wamsutter rest area as usual, waiting out the shift. At 3:47 a.m., a voice came through channel 1933. This is a family traveling east on I-80. We need help. Our car is overheating. We're at mile marker 133. Is there anyone who can assist? The voice was calm, professional. Too calm for someone stranded in the empty. I grabbed my mic. This is Wyoming Highway Patrol. Sir, can you describe your vehicle? It's a 1987 Dodge Caravan, blue. We have children with us. The engine started smoking about 10 minutes ago. Something was wrong. I checked my notes. Mile marker 133 was a hot zone, one of the most active areas in the empty. No one should be stopped there. Sir, what time is it by your watch? A pause. It's 3:48 a.m. Why? Normal people didn't know the time in the empty. The watches stopped working, the car clocks went dark. This wasn't a stranded family. It was one of the things, trying a new approach. Negative on assistance, I replied carefully. Proceed to the nearest rest area. Wamsutter is at mile marker 173. I'll meet you there. We can't drive. The engine is dead. Please, we have children. We need help now. I heard a child crying in the background, or something that sounded like a child crying. The sound was too regular, too perfectly timed. Smokey's voice cut in. David, don't engage. It's mimicking. They do that sometimes. Testing us. How do you know? Because that same family has been calling for help since 1985. I've got their distress call logged. Same voice, same car, same mile marker. It's a trap. I switched off my CB and sat in the dark, listening to the thing pretending to be a family continue to call for help. Other voices joined in, warning people away. The network knew this one. But what bothered me was how good the mimicry was. It wasn't just imitating, it was learning, getting better. How long before we couldn't tell the difference? At 4:44, the world came back, and I drove to mile marker 133. There was nothing there, just empty highway. The next night, I decided to do something risky. I'd been researching the history of I-80, looking for patterns in when the empty had started. Dr. Webb, the geologist from the network, had given me access to old records, construction documents, incident reports. What I found was disturbing. The empty wasn't new. It had always been there, or something like it had. In 1869, when the Transcontinental Railroad was being built through Wyoming, there were reports of workers disappearing during the early morning hours. Swallowed by the desert, the report said. In 1926, when the Lincoln Highway was constructed, the precursor to I-80, there were similar incidents, motorists vanishing between 3 and 5 a.m. The empty predated the interstate. The interstate had just made it more accessible, more regular. And there was another pattern I noticed. Every 7 years, the activity spiked. More disappearances, more sightings, more intensity. The last spike had been in 1987, 2 years ago, which meant the next one was due in 1994, 5 years from now. I showed my research to Smokey. He read through my notes silently, his expression growing darker. "This changes things," he said finally. "If you're right, if there's a 7-year cycle, then we're in a quiet period right now. Things are going to get worse. A lot worse. We need to warn people. Get more drivers and patrol officers aware of the schedule. Be prepared for what, David? We can barely handle the empty as it is. You want to tell people it's going to get worse? That'll just cause panic. Drivers will avoid I-80 entirely. The economy of Wyoming depends on this highway. You'll shut down the state. Better than people dying. People are going to die anyway. That's the price of the highway. We knew it when we built roads through the desert. We just didn't know what we were paying." That conversation haunted me. The idea that we'd built our infrastructure on top of something ancient and hungry, and now we were stuck with it. The highway couldn't be closed. Too many people depended on it. So we just accepted the casualties, filed them as accidents, moved on. It made me angry. And anger, I was learning, was dangerous in the empty. 2 weeks later, I made a mistake. I was on patrol, parked at a rest area, when I saw a vehicle struggling on the highway. It was 3:38 a.m., 5 minutes into the shift. The vehicle was clearly human, a beat-up pickup truck, and it was losing speed. The engine was failing. I knew I should stay parked. The rules were clear, but I could see the driver through the windshield, a young woman, terrified. I made a choice. I started my engine and pulled out of the rest area onto the empty highway. My radio immediately lit up with voices. "Gabourey, what are you doing? Get back to the rest area." "That's a civilian. I can't just watch her get taken." "You can and you should. This is what they do, David. They use our compassion against us." But I was already moving, accelerating to catch up with the struggling truck. As I got closer, I could see it was real. An old Ford, Wyoming plates, rust on the bumper. The woman inside was maybe 25, crying, pounding on the steering wheel as her truck sputtered. I pulled alongside and motioned for her to roll down her window. She did, tears streaming down her face. "My truck died. What's happening? Where are all the lights?" "Follow me. I shouted. "Stay close. I'll lead you to safety." I pulled ahead, keeping my speed steady, watching in the mirror to make sure she was keeping up. The rest area was 8 miles ahead. We could make it. That's when I saw it in my mirror. Behind the woman's truck, something was forming. Not one of the usual things, something new. It looked like a patrol car, my patrol car. Same model, same color, same unit number. It was matching my speed exactly, mirroring my movements. The woman saw it too. She accelerated, trying to get away from it. But the thing matched her speed. When she sped up, it sped up. When she slowed, it slowed. It was copying me, using me as a template. Smokey, I've got a problem. There's something mimicking my patrol car. What do I do? Kill your engine. Right now. Don't give it anything to copy. I can't. I've got a civilian following me. If you don't kill your engine, that thing is going to become a perfect copy of you, and then it'll be loose in our world. Is that what you want? I looked in the mirror. The copy was getting more detailed. I could see a driver now wearing a highway patrol uniform. The face was indistinct, but it was forming. David! Smokey's voice was urgent. If that thing finishes forming while copying you, it'll be you. It'll have your badge, your authority, your ability to move between the empty and the real world. You'll have created a monster. The rest area was 5 miles ahead. The woman's truck was still sputtering. And behind her, my copy was becoming more real with every second. I made a choice. I slammed on my brakes. The woman's truck shot past me, confused. The thing mimicking me stopped too, perfectly synchronized. Keep driving, I shouted to the woman. Rest area ahead, don't stop. I turned my patrol car to face the copy. It did the same. We sat there, facing each other on the empty highway, 2 identical patrol cars with identical drivers. Except I could see its face now. It looked exactly like me. Every detail, every scar, every expression. It smiled, I hadn't smiled. Then it spoke, and its voice came through my own radio. My voice, my tone, my speech patterns. Thank you, Officer Gabory. I've been looking for a form that works in both places. I think this one will do nicely. You can't leave the empty, can't I? You did. You drove out here to save that woman. If you can cross the boundary, why can't I? I'm you now. I have everything you have. It started moving forward. I moved forward too, matching it. We were 20 feet apart, 10 feet, 5 feet. Our mirrors touched, and I felt it, the pull. The thing was trying to merge with me, to complete the copying process by absorbing the original. I threw my car in reverse and hit the gas. The copy followed. We raced backward down the highway, maintaining perfect distance. David, what's your status? Smokey's voice. It's trying to merge with me. If we touch, I think it'll take over. Absorb me completely. Then don't let it touch you. Keep moving until 444. When the shift ends, it'll have to go back to the empty. 3 miles of reverse driving. My arms ached from holding the wheel steady. My neck cramped from looking backward. The copy matched me perfectly, its face, my face, calm and patient behind the windshield. At 444, the world came back. The copy didn't disappear. It was still there, driving backward, matching me. It had crossed over. I slammed on the brakes and spun the wheel, doing a J-turn to face forward. The copy did the same. We sat there on I-80 in the normal world, 2 identical patrol cars. My radio crackled. Normal dispatch this time. Unit 7, we're getting reports of 2 patrol cars on I-80 westbound. Can you confirm your location? I grabbed the mic. This is Unit 7. I have a code situation. Need immediate backup at mile marker 168. Define code situation, Unit 7. Before I could answer, the copy drove away, just pulled onto the highway and accelerated west, moving at normal speed, looking completely real. I chased it. At 90 miles an hour through the Wyoming desert, I chased myself. Other patrol units joined in, confused by the situation but responding to my call for backup. The copy was good. It drove like me, moved like me, probably thought like me, but it made one mistake. It didn't know where it was going. At mile marker 215, it pulled into a rest area. Dead end. The real me knew that rest area had no exit. The copy didn't. I blocked the entrance with my car. Other units surrounded it. 6 patrol cars, all with guns drawn, all pointing at one car that looked exactly like mine. The thing that looked like me got out slowly, hands raised. In the sunlight, I could see the differences. Subtle, but there. The uniform was too perfect, no wear, no stains. The face was a little too symmetrical. The eyes didn't quite focus right. "Officers," it said in my voice, "there's been a mistake. I'm David Gabori." "I'm one of you." "I'm David Gabori," I said. "That's a mimic from the empty. Do not let it leave this rest area." The other officers looked between us, trying to decide which one was real. The copy smiled. "How do we prove who's real? We're identical. Same fingerprints, same DNA. I'm a perfect copy. You can't tell us apart." It was right. In every measurable way, we were the same. But I had something it didn't. History. "My sergeant is Tom Holloway," I said. "My apartment is on Cedar Street in Rawlins. I transferred from Chicago PD in April. My partner there was Darren Webb. My mother's name is Jennifer. I have a scar on my left shoulder from a knife wound I got in 1986. The copy opened its mouth, then closed it. It didn't have those memories. It only had what it had copied from the empty, from the shell of me that existed there. "You're not me," I said. "You're an echo, a reflection, but you're not real." The copy's expression changed. The almost right smile faded. It looked at me with something that might have been sadness. "Neither are you," it said. "Not anymore. You've spent so much time in the empty, you're becoming an echo too. Soon there won't be a difference between us." Then it ran. Faster than human, faster than possible. It broke through the circle of patrol cars and sprinted toward the highway. We opened fire. 12 officers, 47 rounds. We hit it. I know we hit it. But it kept running, its body absorbing the bullets like they were water. It reached I-80 and it ran west, just kept running at inhuman speed until it disappeared from sight. We never found it. But I think about what it said. About me becoming an echo. About the difference between us disappearing. Because it was right. Every night in the empty, I felt less real. More like a copy of myself. More like a thing that resembled David Gabori but wasn't quite him anymore. I had to make a choice. Keep working the 3rd shift and risk losing myself completely. Or walk away and let the empty take whoever it wanted. I drove back to Rawlins, trying to decide which version of me was worth saving. The one who helped people. Or the one who was still human. The copy of me that escaped was never found. The Wyoming Highway Patrol launched an investigation. But what could they investigate? A thing that looked exactly like one of their officers, that had somehow appeared during a routine shift. They filed it as an incident of unknown origin and moved on. But I knew it was still out there. Somewhere in Wyoming, maybe still on I-80, maybe having found its way into the real world completely. A perfect copy of David Gabori, with no memories, no history, no humanity. Just a thing wearing my face. The thought kept me awake during the day. At night, when I should have been sleeping, I'd drive past the places where I knew the copy might appear. Looking for myself. Hunting myself. Smokey found me at a rest area one morning after my shift ended. I was sitting in my patrol car, staring at nothing. "You can't keep doing this," he said. "You're going to break. What if it hurts someone? What if it uses my face to what? What do you think it wants? What does the empty want?" I didn't have an answer. That was the problem. After 6 months of studying the empty, documenting it, trying to understand it, I still didn't know what it wanted. Why it took people. why it created copies, why it existed at all. Maybe it doesn't want anything, Smokey continued. Maybe it just is, like a river or a mountain. It exists, and we have to navigate around it. Rivers don't create copies of people. Mountains don't steal souls. Don't they? How many people have died building roads through mountains? How many bodies are buried in the foundations of our highways? Maybe the empty is just more honest about the cost. I thought about that, about the price we paid for infrastructure, for progress, for the convenience of crossing a continent on asphalt. How many lives per mile? How many ghosts in the concrete? I want to go deeper, I said finally. I want to go into the empty and not come back at 4:44. I want to see where it leads. Smokey was quiet for a long moment. That's what Patterson said, right before he disappeared. Patterson came back. I saw him. He's still out there. That's not Patterson, not anymore. That's something wearing his shape. You go too deep, that'll be you too. Maybe, but maybe I'll find answers, real answers, about what this is and how to stop it. You can't stop the empty, David. You can only survive it. But I couldn't accept that. I couldn't accept that we were just supposed to live with this, to sacrifice people every year to a phenomenon we didn't understand. There had to be a way to end it. The network tried to talk me out of it. At the next gathering, they all took turns warning me. Janely from Nebraska told me about 3 officers who'd gone deep and never came back. Bill told me about a trucker who'd spent 6 hours in the empty and emerged unable to speak, unable to recognize his own family. Dr. Webb showed me calculations suggesting that prolonged exposure to the empty caused permanent neurological changes. But I'd made up my mind. Someone had to go to the center. Someone had to find out what the empty really was. 2 weeks later, I made my decision. I told no one except Smokey, who deserved to know what I was planning. If I don't come back by dawn, don't look for me, I told him. Just tell them I transferred. Tell them I went back to Chicago. David, and keep helping people. Keep the network going. Whatever happens to me, don't let the empty win. On a Thursday night, I started my shift as usual. Drove my route. Checked in with dispatch at regular intervals. Normal night. I made small talk with truckers on Channel 19, gave warnings about weather conditions, pulled over a speeder doing 95 and let him off with a warning. At 3:30 a.m., I was positioned near mile marker 175. The hot zone, the place where most disappearances occurred, where the membrane between our world and the empty was thinnest. I parked on the shoulder, killed my lights, and waited. At 3:33, the empty came, but this time I didn't run to a rest area. I stayed on the shoulder, watching as the world changed around me. The lights of Rock Springs disappeared. The stars shifted to wrong positions. The power lines vanished. The highway became something else, something that had always been there beneath the asphalt and paint. At 3:35, I started driving, not toward safety, toward the center. On Channel 1933, Smokey's voice crackled through. "David, you're showing on the highway. Get to a rest area, now." I didn't respond. I just drove, watching the mile markers. 180, 185, 190. The highway looked the same, but felt different. The air was thicker, like moving through water. The darkness was more complete, absolute, in a way that normal darkness never was. At mile marker 195, I noticed the first changes to my patrol car. The radio started playing stations that didn't exist, fragments of broadcasts from decades past, or maybe decades future. The speedometer showed speeds that contradicted what I could feel. The rearview mirror reflected a road I wasn't on. At mile marker 200, I saw the first structure that shouldn't exist. A gas station. Old style, like something from the 1950s. Red and white Texaco sign, glass globe pumps, a small office with warm yellow light glowing from the windows. But when I looked at it, my eyes couldn't quite focus on the details. The edges blurred and shifted. I pulled in. The station was silent. No attendant, no customers, no sounds except the hum of fluorescent lights and the tick of my cooling engine. I got out of my car, and the moment my feet touched the ground, I felt the change. This was deeper than I'd ever been. The empty was stronger here, more present. This place was far inside it, far from the boundaries where the real world still bled through. I could feel my body responding to the environment. My movements felt sluggish, like I was underwater. My thoughts came slower, more deliberate. Time itself seemed negotiable here. I walked to the station door. It opened under my hand, the bell above it making a sound like wind chimes in a graveyard. Inside was a small convenience store, shelves stocked with products I didn't recognize. The brands were almost right, the packaging almost familiar, but wrong in small ways. Coca-Cola with the letters reversed, Marlboro cigarettes with a different logo, Campbell's soup with flavors that couldn't exist. Everything slightly off, like looking at the world through warped glass. Behind the counter was a person, or something like a person. It wore the shape of a gas station attendant, blue uniform, name tag that said Earl, but the letters kept shifting. Bored expression frozen on a face that was almost human. But the details shifted when I looked directly at it. The proportions weren't quite right. The movements between positions happened without transition. "Help you?" it asked. Its voice was like a recording played at the wrong speed, too slow and too fast simultaneously. "I'm looking for answers," I said. "About the empty, about what this place is." The attendant tilted its head. The angle was wrong, too far, like an owl. "Answers cost, everything costs. What you offering? What do you want?" "Time, everyone pays in time. Minutes, hours, years. All the same here, all the same currency." I thought about the Henderson family from 1952, still trapped in the empty after 37 years. About Rabbit, erased from existence. About Patterson, transformed into something that wore his face but wasn't him anymore. They'd all paid in time. How much time for the truth? The attendant's smile widened. Its teeth were too numerous, arranged in patterns that hurt to look at. "Depends on the truth. Small truth, small price. Big truth costs big time. Biggest truth costs all of it." "What's the biggest truth?" The attendant leaned forward, and I could see now that it wasn't solid. It was made of layers, multiple versions of itself existing in the same space, all slightly out of sync. When it spoke, I heard its voice from multiple times at once. "The biggest truth is that you're already gone. Been gone since your first night in the empty. The David Gaborit who drove into Wyoming is still back there, still in April 1989. You're just a copy, living out the timeline he would have lived, becoming less real with each shift. By now, you're more empty than human, more pattern than person." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "That's not true." "No? Check your memories. Try to remember Chicago clearly. Try to remember your mother's face without looking at a photo. Try to remember your first day as a cop, your graduation from the academy, your childhood bedroom. Try to remember anything from before April with perfect clarity." I tried, and the attendant was right. The memories were there, but distant, faded, like I was watching them happen to someone else through frosted glass. My life before Wyoming felt like a story I'd been told rather than something I'd lived. I could remember the facts, addresses, names, dates, but not the feelings. not the reality of being there. What happens to the original, the real David Gabori? He's still out there, still in April 1989, still driving into Wyoming for the first time. This is a loop, you see. The empty doesn't move forward in time like you do. It exists in all time simultaneously. Every version of you that has ever entered the empty is here, right now, having this same conversation. And the you that's just arriving for the first time is about to start the whole cycle again. My head spun. That doesn't make any sense. The empty doesn't make sense. That's the point. It's the space between sense, the gap in logic, the place where causality breaks down and folds back on itself. You're not the first David Gabori to have this conversation with me. You're the 47th, and there are more coming. I looked at my hands. They looked solid, real. But now I could see what the attendant meant. There was a transparency to them, a suggestion that if I looked hard enough, I could see through to something else. If I'm just a copy, then what am I? What am I? What's the point of any of this? You're an echo, a pattern trying to maintain coherence. And the point is whatever you decide it is. Some echoes try to hold on to their humanity. Some accept what they are and dissolve peacefully. Some fight it and become monsters. You're here asking questions, which means you haven't decided yet. What about the original? What happens to him when I stop being coherent? Nothing. He's protected by being stuck in his moment. He never experiences what you're experiencing. He'll live out his life in April 1989, forever starting his first shift, forever encountering the empty for the first time. A perfect loop, insulated from the consequences. You're the one who has to carry the weight of continuation. All the echoes do. I thought about that. About being an echo, a copy, a pattern that looked like David Gabori but wasn't really him. It should have terrified me. But instead, I felt something else. Clarity. If I'm an echo, I said slowly, then I'm free from the original's limitations. I can do things he couldn't, take risks he wouldn't, sacrifice myself without actually dying, because I was never really alive in the first place. The attendant's expression shifted to something that might have been respect. Now you're understanding. The echoes are more powerful than the originals, if they accept what they are. You can exist in the empty longer, withstand more, help more people. You're not constrained by the fear of death because you're already post-life. You're a ghost with purpose. What happens if I stay here? In the deep empty? Same thing that happens to everyone who stays. You lose coherence over time. Your form becomes less stable. Your thoughts less linear, your identity less fixed. Eventually, you become part of the empty itself. Some fight it, like your friend Patterson. He's holding on to his human shape through sheer will, but it's exhausting him. Others accept it and transform into something new. The things you see on the highway, the vehicles that aren't quite vehicles, many of them used to be people. They're not suffering. They're just different now, existing in a different way. And if I leave, if I go back to the real world, you go back as you are, an echo. You keep working the third shift. You keep helping people. You keep losing coherence little by little, night by night. In a year, you'll barely remember being solid. In 2 years, you'll be more ghost than man. In 3 years, you'll be legend. And in 5 years, you'll be completely transformed into something else. But those 5 years, you'll save dozens of lives, maybe hundreds, because echoes can do things humans can't. Like what? You can exist in both spaces more easily, cross between the empty and reality without waiting for 3:33. Sense the danger before it manifests. communicate with the things that drive, guide people through impossible situations. You're not constrained by the rules that govern the living. You're something new, something useful. I stood in that impossible gas station, listening to the truth from something that wasn't quite real, and I realized I'd already made my choice. I'd made it the moment I decided to come here. Maybe I'd made it 6 months ago, the first time I entered the empty. Can I still help people, even as an echo? That's all echoes are good for. Helping others avoid becoming like them. It's the only meaning most of us find. Then that's what I'll do. I'll go back. I'll keep working the third shift. I'll help everyone I can for as long as I can hold myself together. The attendant nodded slowly, its multiple layers syncing up for just a moment. That's what the good ones always choose, the ones who remember why they became cops in the first place. Service over self, help over preservation. Will it hurt? The dissolution? Not really. It's more like fading, like falling asleep gradually over years. By the time you're fully transformed, you won't remember being afraid. You'll just be part of the pattern, part of the highway, forever guiding, forever warning, forever helping. There are worse fates. I thought about Rabbit, who'd sacrificed himself to save a family, about all the truckers and cops who worked the third shift, knowing it would eventually claim them. About Smokey, still out there every night, still warning others, even though he had to be changing too. Before I go, I said, one more question. Why do you help us? Why tell me any of this? What do you get out of it? The attendant was quiet for a moment, its form flickering. I was human once, highway patrol, like you. Worked I-80 in the 1960s, before most of the network existed. I went too deep, stayed too long, and transformed, but I remember what it was like. I remember caring about people. And even though I'm mostly empty now, I keep this gas station here as a service. A place where people can learn the truth before they make their final choice. It's all I have left of my humanity, this one kind act, repeated forever. What was your name? Officer, just officer. That's all I remember now. The rest is gone. I extended my hand. The attendant looked at it for a moment, then reached out. When we shook hands, I felt it. The connection between echoes, between beings who were more pattern than person, more purpose than presence. Thank you, officer, I said. Thank you, David Gabori. Now go. Go be the echo that helps. Go be the ghost in the patrol car. Go be the legend. And when your time comes, when you finally dissolve completely, maybe you'll keep a small part of yourself alive like I did. Maybe you'll build your own gas station, your own waypoint for the lost. Maybe that's how we all continue. Little fragments of humanity scattered through the empty, trying to help. I walked out of that gas station, got in my patrol car and drove back toward the boundary between the empty and the real world. The attendant watched me go, a figure in a window, eternal and patient. At 4:44, I crossed back into reality. My radio crackled immediately. David, Jesus Christ, where the hell have you been? You've been dark for over an hour. It was Smokey. His voice was tight with worry. I checked my watch. According to him, I'd been missing for 78 minutes. According to my watch, I'd been in the deep empty for 6 minutes. I went to the center, I said. I found answers. What kind of answers? The kind that change everything. Pull into the next rest area. We need to talk. I met Smokey at the Wamsutter rest area. The sun was coming up, painting the desert in shades of gold and red. Normal, beautiful, real. Or as real as anything could be anymore. I told him everything. About the gas station, the attendant, the truth about echoes. about how I was already gone, had been gone since April, was just a copy living out a timeline that the original David Gabory would never experience. Smokey listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time, sipping his coffee and watching the sunrise. "You know what the crazy thing is?" he finally said. "I'm not surprised. I think I've known for a while that something like this was happening to all of us. The way time feels wrong, the way memories fade, the way we keep coming back to the empty even though we know it's killing us." He looked at me. "We're all echoes, aren't we? Everyone who works the third shift long enough." "I think so." "Yeah. And you're planning to keep working it? Even knowing what you know?" "Oh. Especially knowing what I know. I can help people, Smokey. Really help them. I'm not constrained by human limitations anymore. I can cross between the empty and reality more easily. I can sense danger. I can guide people through impossible situations. I'm exactly what the network needs." Smokey smiled sadly. "You always were too dedicated for your own good. Even as an echo, you're trying to save everyone. Someone has to. Yeah, someone has to." For the next 3 years, I kept working the third shift, and the attendant was right. As I accepted what I was, my abilities grew. I could feel when the empty was about to manifest, could sense the dangerous zones before I reached them. I could stay in the empty longer without panicking, could navigate its twisted geometry with increasing ease. I saved dozens of people, families, truckers, lost travelers. I became known throughout the network as the Ghost Trooper, the cop who could appear out of nowhere during the third shift and guide you to safety. But I could also feel myself changing, fading. My reflection in the mirror became less distinct. My memories before April 1989 disappeared completely. I forgot what my mother looked like, forgot my childhood home, forgot the sound of my own voice from before. By year 2, I could barely remember Chicago. By year 3, I wasn't sure if I'd ever been fully human, but I could still help people. That part never faded. The desire to protect, to serve, to guide, that remained even as everything else dissolved. In 1992, exactly 3 years after my first encounter with the empty, I made my last patrol as David Gaborit, the Echo. I'd scheduled it deliberately. It was April 15th, the same date I'd first arrived in Wyoming. First driven into the empty, I drove to mile marker 175, the hot zone, where it had all started. At 3:33 a.m., the empty came, and I didn't resist it. I let it take me completely. I drove deep, past the gas station, past the point where human echoes could maintain coherence. I drove until my patrol car became something else, something that wasn't quite a vehicle but still served the same purpose. I drove until I wasn't David Gaborit anymore, but I was still something that helped. Somewhere on I-80 in Wyoming, there's still a patrol car that drives the third shift. Unit 7, driven by something that used to be David Gabory, or maybe still is depending on how you measure identity. It helps people, guides them to safety, warns them away from the things. It's been doing this for over 35 years now, according to the network. Long after David Gabory should have retired, long after his body should have aged past usefulness. The truckers call it the Ghost Trooper. Some say it's a guardian angel. Others say it's a warning. This is what happens when you go too deep, when you stay too long, when you accept becoming an echo instead of fighting to stay human. I don't know which one I am anymore. The ghost or the warning. The guardian or the lesson, the helper or the haunting. But I know this. On I-80 in Wyoming, between 3:33 and 4:44 a.m., if you see a patrol car following you, its lights flashing in a pattern that isn't quite right, its form a little too perfect, its movements a little too smooth. Don't be afraid, it's just me, or what's left of me, or what I've become. The distinction doesn't matter anymore. I'm the echo that chose service, the ghost that still remembers why it became a cop, the pattern that holds itself together just enough to keep helping. I am David Gabbery. I am Unit 7. I am the ghost trooper of the third shift. I am what happens when you sacrifice everything, including your humanity, to help others. And I'm still out there, still guiding lost travelers to safety, still warning people away from the deep empty, still standing between the living and the things that drive. Because someone has to work the third shift. Someone has to be the ghost in the patrol car, forever cruising I-80, forever watching, forever helping. And in the empty, forever is exactly as long as it sounds. I'm not human anymore. I'm not even really an echo anymore. I'm something new, something the empty and the highway created together. A purpose that wears the shape of a cop because that's the form that helps best. And when you see me, and if you drive I-80 at night, eventually you will. Remember this: the empty takes everything. But sometimes if you're willing to give everything, you can choose what you become when it takes you. I chose to become help itself, and that choice echoes through every night, every shift, every lonely mile of highway. The third shift never ends, but neither does the helping. And in the empty, that's the closest thing to meaning we get.